because as human beings, we'll do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And again, this is the fuel that's going to drive you to take action. See, Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, calls it burning desire. You've got to have a burning desire to go out there and take action, because otherwise you can get caught up in fear, or you can get caught up in limiting beliefs, or maybe you're comfortable. And we all know the comfort zone's a nice, warm, safe place, but nothing grows there, right? And so, you want to have this burning desire to push through those things.
Welcome to the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the podcast where you'll not only learn how you can achieve massive success in multifamily real estate investing, but also how you can simultaneously pursue great relationships with your family and a better walk with God. You can achieve financial freedom through real estate investing without sacrificing the relationships that mean the most to you. Now, here's your host, Lee Yoder.
Welcome back, Threefold listeners. I hope you're having a great week. Really excited about the guest I'm bringing on today. Rod Khleif is joining us. If you don't know that name, then you're probably not in the multifamily space. I've been following Rod for a long time, so this is really a special treat for me. Rod has he's done a lot. He's been in the business for a long time. He's built a bunch of businesses. What I know about Rod is he built up a big business of single-family homes, was really crushing it. He said he likes to talk about how his head got a little bit too big, and then '08 gave him his biggest learning lesson. He calls them seminars. Lost a bunch, and then rebuilt, and noticed then that his multifamily held up much better. So Rod has really transitioned since then, all in the multifamily. Now he teaches hundreds and hundreds of people, myself included, just through his podcast and the educational material he puts out, but he also has a great coaching program. He's a philanthropist, so many other things. Rod, that's enough. I know you're going to tell us all those things, but thanks so much for joining us. It's a really a treat for me to have you.
No, thanks, buddy. Thank you. Let's have some fun today.
Rod, I'd love if you wouldn't mind taking us back. You've got a great story all the way back. Your mom, I know you're an immigrant, and your mom, I think, had the house across the street, and kind of a little light bulb moment there to get you into real estate. Can you take us all the way back there, and then maybe kind of fast forward to that point, where you were really rocking and rolling in real estate?
Yeah, you got it. So, I'm an immigrant, born in the Netherlands, wooden shoes, windmills, immigrated when I was 6 with my brother, Albert, my mother's Vansha, ended up in Denver, Colorado. And we really struggled initially. I remember eating expired food. We went to an expired food store. You drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning. And I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I lied about my age. I got a job at Burger King flipping burgers so I could buy my own clothes and ultimately buy a car, which was the big thing back then I wanted to have. And, and I'm sure, Lee, you've got listeners that had it harder than I did, or maybe have it harder now. But see, I always knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom, like you said, had an incredible work ethic. And so she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, she was a bit of an entrepreneur. She invested in the stock market and made money, but she also invested in real estate. And the first house she bought was directly across the street from us, from a family named the Jewels. And I remember she paid about $30,000 for it when I was about 14. When I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep that had gone up in value that much. And I'm like, what? Screw college, Mom. I'm getting into real estate. So I went and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which you could do back then with education. I could actually own my own office, but they got smart. Now you need some experience to be a broker. But I was a broker right when I turned 18, and I was going to be rich in real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about 8 to 10 grand. This is 1978. My second year, maybe 10 to 12 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000. Wow. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10X my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy that taught me about mindset and psychology, and in fact, I dated his daughter, and how 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and your psychology. Since then, I've spent 20 years following Tony Robbins around the planet, around that same topic, who's the best in the world in that topic. But, that's what happened was I got my mindset right, and I took massive action. And, fast forward to today, I've owned a couple thousand houses that I've rented long-term. I've owned thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And, if you do the math on that, it's about $8,300 an hour. Which of course I did. And like you said, I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a freaking real estate god. And, when that happens, God will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008. I lost that 17 million, a lot more. I lost $50 million in 2008. And so one of the things I'm known for is the mindset talking about this topic,
Yes.
and that is the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place. But then as important, or maybe even more important, is the mindset it took to recover from losing everything in that big a chunk. People jumped off buildings and killed themselves for less, both in this last crash and in the Great Depression. And, so I'm happy to drill down on some of those strategies with you today, Lee, if you like. It's a topic, of course, I love talking about.
I think that's why you've built such a great coaching program, such a community of people, because you're willing to talk about that. Because not only to have the success, but also to experience a failure. And a lot of times, God, unfortunately, that's the only way we can learn some of these big lessons. So you obviously already had a lot of what it took to build such an incredible business. But man, what you've learned since then, I'm sure, has been incredibly valuable as well. So I would love to talk about where your mindset was and how you got through a difficult time like that, whereas some people weren't able to, and not only get back, but get back, way beyond where you were before the crash.
Yeah. Well, it starts with knowing what it is that you want. I do boot camps several times a year. And if you come to one of mine, the first thing we do for about an hour and a half is goals, because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? So I call it goal setting on steroids, which is really what it is. And it's a whole lot more than just goal setting. And so, back then when I lost everything, I had to reassociate with what I wanted, because when you have a failure, like you said, I call them seminars. When you have a failure, it's so easy to associate with that failure. And God forbid you make that your identity, that whatever vehicle failed, if you make that your identity, you're in real trouble, because if you do, then you're a failure. So it's always got to be separate from you. Yes, you may have had a setback and you call it a failure if you want, but you're not a failure. So back then, I had to reassociate with what I wanted, because it's natural human tendency to focus on pain, and you can even make it your story. And that's when you take pain and make it your story, that can be really bad as well, or make it your identity even. In the human psyche, there's no greater human need than the need to remain consistent with how we identify ourselves. So one of the exercises we do at my boot camps as well is an identity statement. Because whatever you put the words I am in front of is just that. Like on my wall here, I've got identity statements like I am success. I'm the best in the world at what I do. I'm a business genius. I am courage. I'm determination. I am focus. Again, not ego. These are things I aspire to embody. I reassociated back then when I lost it all. I reassociated with what I wanted and why I wanted it. And then I got around people that were thriving in that crash as well. And so, peer group is super important. So I was in a mastermind, actually Tony Robbins Platinum Partnership at that time. So I was around people that were killing it, while all the friends that I had were getting their butts kicked. And so, that's really important as well. Yeah. When you get in a group of like-minded people that want more out of life. In fact, I'm just doing a clip on my podcast this week about the mastermind, the power of a mastermind. When, Napoleon Hill said, when you get two like minds together with what he called a definiteness of purpose, where they want the same thing, they create this third intangible mind that's greater than the sum of the parts, two or more minds together. And so, that's the power of getting around people that want what you do, that aren't afraid of what you want, that aren't jealous of what you want, that aren't going to try to poo-poo on your dreams. So that was the second piece. So goals, like I say, goals are super important. And I could describe that process for you too, if you like. It takes about an hour and a half to do it, but I could describe it for your listeners. So if they wanted to take some notes, you could do it for yourself.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for my listeners if you did that.
Okay, I'm happy to. I want you to, pick an hour when you have a lot of energy. Okay, sit down uninterrupted. Make sure you're well hydrated, drink some water. Don't do it right after a meal, and just sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. All the stuff, houses, cars, jets, boats, jet skis, motorcycles, whatever, all the stuff. Nothing wrong with stuff. You want to get stuff because you can share stuff, and there's nothing more fun than that. But write down all of that. Then also write down all the things you want to do in this lifetime, places you want to go. I've got a travel vision board, for example, places you want to travel, excursions you might want to do. I've got a friend that's climbing every mountain over 14,000 feet. I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane a few years ago. I'll never do it again, but it's off the bucket list. So these are bucket list items as well. So it's not just the stuff. It's everything you want to do, be, and have. And so you're going to list all the stuff, how much money you want from your investment, say in 3 years, and again in say 10 years, how much cash flow you want, how much money you want in the bank in 3 years and 10 years. So all your financial goals, how many units maybe you want. So all of that stuff. But then also write down, everything you want to learn in this lifetime. If you want to learn a skill set of some sort, a foreign language, whatever, if you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, come to one of my boot camps. And, in fact, I'll give you a code. Just use the code RODFRIEND. Okay. And you can attend my boot camps for a song and a dance. And but anyway, where was I? So you write down everything you could want. Also write down everything you want to do, everything you want to learn, and also write down who you want to help. Because as human beings, we'll do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And again, this is the fuel that's going to drive you to take action. See, Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, calls it burning desire. You've got to have a burning desire to go out there and take action, because otherwise you can get caught up in fear, or you can get caught up in limiting beliefs, or maybe you're comfortable. And we all know the comfort zone's a nice, warm, safe place, but nothing grows there, right? And so, you want to have this burning desire to push through those things. And so once you can't think, and by the way, if you're analytical, don't stop and analyze your answers. You can always scratch them out later. Just don't let the pen leave the paper. You just keep writing big things, little things, everything. It's like a life plan, really. People spend more time preparing for a birthday party than they do designing their lives. Okay. So this is why this is so freaking important. And so once you can't think of another thing, put a time limit on each goal. It's just a couple more quick steps. Put a time limit, how long it's going to take you to achieve it, how many years you think. And again, don't overthink it. Just guess a 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20. Realizing that, as human beings, we have a tendency to overestimate what we, can get done in a year, but massively underestimate what we can do in a decade, for example. I'll give you an example of this, and please know I'm going to give you some personal examples for me, and it's not me bragging. I just want to hopefully inspire you listening to what's possible. So, when I was 18, I knew I always wanted to live on the beach, and obviously there's no beach in Denver. And so, but I'd visualize the palm trees and the sand and the waves. And, 20 years later, I built this incredible $8 million mansion on the beach, with the beach on one side. It was a Gulf to Bay where I owned the beach on one side and had my boat lifts on the backside. So it's a narrow slice through an island. And it was spectacular. And it was unthinkable when I was 18, but I thought about it, I visualized it, and I ultimately made it happen. And so again, don't limit yourself. If you want a private island, a jet, there's nothing you can't do, be, or have. I mean, look at people like Elon Musk, $3 billion startups. I mean, good. Now one of the wealthiest guys in the world, if not the wealthiest. I mean, it's just astounding what people are capable of if they set their minds to it. And so, all right. So once you've got a time limit on each goal, pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal when you get it, you're like, oh my God, life is, you've arrived when you achieve that goal. Pick that one, put it on another piece of paper. Then pick your top 3 one-year goals, put them on a separate sheet of paper, and leave some room in between them. And we're almost done here. So at this point, you're ahead of just about everybody on the planet that does a New Year's resolution that's forgotten by the middle of February. But there's a couple more quick steps. I want you to write down why each one of those goals is an absolute freaking must to achieve. Okay. You have to achieve it. Okay. And you want to use emotionally charged words as well. Words are very powerful. Words like amazing and beautiful and incredible. Use those because they'll push you. So you might say, so I can show my kids what incredible success looks like. So I can show my wife or husband what it means to live a life of amazing abundance. So, we can have unbelievable freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, bring whoever we want, so whatever's going to juice you, you want to write that down and make it exciting. And then take it one little step further though. Once you've got a positive reason why, I want you to put some pain in there if you don't achieve the goal and make it hurt, so you might say, so I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't fail my wife, make it hurt. So that, I don't live a life of regret. And here's why. Here's why. Because as human beings, we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. And you want to use this. This is the fuel. About regret, for example, there was a nurse in Australia that was a hospice nurse. And so she took care of patients when they were about to die. Her name was Bronnie Ware. She saw people right before they left this earth. And she asked them a question, Lee. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that. So if you're listening to this or watching this and you're fearing failure, I'm here to tell you, fear regret a lot more than failure. Listen, any successful entrepreneur knows we fail our way to success. Okay. I've built 27 businesses. several have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most are spectacular flaming seminars, okay?
Yeah.
Failures. And
Yeah.
so, entrepreneurs are like a shark. We only die if we stop swimming. It's only a failure if you don't get back up, you don't get the lesson. Otherwise, it's a learning experience. And so, I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, the women's undergarments, named Sarah Blakely, beautiful human being. I met her at a mastermind. Actually, we talked about masterminds. I met her at a mastermind, and she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week, "What have you failed at this week?"
Yeah. I've heard
What an
that.
awesome freaking question to ask your kids, to not fear failure. So anyway, you've got your positive and negative reasons why. Lastly, you need to get some pictures. You need to get some pictures and put them, around you. I'll give you some examples of this, how I use this in my life, and public examples too. Like, because you can make declarations or just get like these talismans, as it were. Like Jim Carrey, for example, wrote himself a check when he was flat broke for $10 million. And he used to put it in his wallet, and he'd go up by the Hollywood sign, he'd look at it, and he'd visualize cashing it. That's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. Another example, Demi Lovato, when she was unknown, posted on social media, "One day I'm going to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl." Go watch about three Super Bowls ago and see who sang the national anthem. Give you some personal examples for me. When I was 18, I bought a 4-door car because I knew I was going to show houses for sale. And I got this bone freaking ugly Ford Granada, bench seat in the front. Oh, just a piece of crap. But the guy I worked for that I told you taught me about mindset, had a couple of Corvettes. And again, I was dating his daughter, and he let me drive one. I'm like, this is incredible. And so I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine. This is before you could spell the word internet, hadn't been thought of yet. And I put a picture of that Corvette on the visor of this bone ugly Granada. So every time I sat in the car, it was right there in front of me. Within a year or two, I had a beautiful Corvette. And I'm going to give you a couple more examples. I want to pre-frame this. I'm not bragging. Stuff doesn't even interest me anymore. But I want to, just replace these examples with what interests you. So this is back when the TV show Magnum PI was out. The actor's name was Tom Selleck. He was a detective in Hawaii, and he drove this Ferrari 308. And I saw that. It's the first time I saw an exotic car. I'm like, oh my God, that car is incredible. So I got a picture of that actual car, put on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati, looked just like it. Last example. I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. And, what's interesting is my son collected models of exotic cars. In my boot camp, I bring the model, I show it, because he had about 40, McLarens and Ferraris and Maseratis and Lamborghini. And he had a Lamborghini, it's the exact same color and style that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. But anyway, so get pictures. In fact, I'll show you something. This is my planner. It's on today. I use a paper planner. Uh-oh, stuff's falling out of it. But anyway, in the back of this thing, I've got pictures that have been in here for 20 years. Now, if you put this on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. But those of you listening, I've got pictures of my kids, when they were young. My kids are 30 and 26 now. And you can see these are when they were a baby because they're my gratitude pictures. Why do I have this? Because everything in life is manifested through gratitude. You want anything, use gratitude to get it. Or, when you're praying, you're using gratitude. For sure. Thank you, God. And so gratitude. And so pictures of my kids. Then I've got the pictures of things I wanted. This top picture looks just like that house on the beach before I built it. I had travertine floors like that. I had 10-foot high glass, 80 feet long, around a corner like that. This is before I ever built it. This bottom picture looks just like the compound I have now. You can see behind me. See those white walls in those pictures? Yep. Look behind me. That's my backyard. Is that freaking crazy? And then, what else I got in here? Stupid stuff like watches. I have a few $100,000 worth of watches. That's still my one vice I have. There's a Lamborghini before I ever got it. That's awesome. Rolls Royce, Bentley, all this stuff that I got that I thought was important at one time because I had pictures of it. So, trust me, this stuff works. So get pictures, put them around you, screensaver on the wall, whatever, vision boards. I've got vision boards on the floor. You can see them on the floor behind me next to my recliner there, and I'll, do gratitude. I'll visualize these things as if I already have them. And this is, again, some of you are going, oh, well, at Foo-Foo, we're off on Foo-Foo La La Land. Well, this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got back. So it does work.
What is it about all that? What is it about, setting goals? it's clarity. Does it give you a drive? It inspires you each day.
It gives you that burning desire. It gives you that burning desire. And yes, you need clarity. Goals have to be measurable. Can't be, I'm going to lose some weight. It's going to be, I'm going to lose 10 freaking pounds by January 1st and feel great about it. That's clarity and measurable. And again, it makes you take action. It's never about the goals. It's never about the goals. I'll give you an example of that in a minute. But the point is, it's really about who you become, because and it's about growing, continually growing, because happiness comes from progress and growth. It doesn't actually come from the goals. They say the happiest day of a boat owner's life are the day they bought the boat and the day they sell the boat. It's never about the goals, but you need them. You need them to create that burning desire.
Yes.
That house I built on the beach. Let me give you an example of an epiphany in my life. So, I worked for that thing for 20 years. Okay. 20 years. Yep. And it was mind blowing when I built it, and I stood up there and on the third floor, and I looked at the beach and I looked at the bay behind me, and I'm just like, I can't believe that I have this. Right. Well, 2 months after I moved in, 2 months, 20 years working for it, 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. Just to describe this place, okay, giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool.
Oh, wow.
Big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house. I had a wine cellar. I had an elevator. On the second floor, I had an aquarium that wrapped around the staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So it gives you an idea of the house, okay? So 2 months after, I'm floating in the pool. It's changing colors at night. It's got fiber optic lighting. And I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove the world I was good enough. I got picked on in school because I didn't speak English. And, I had the same stuff lots of kids have had happen to them. But, bullies beat me up and embarrassed by a girl and stupid stuff like that caused me to believe I wasn't good enough. So this is how I showed the world I was good enough. And it's embarrassing to admit, but that's the truth of it. Oh, yeah. And I'm looking up at this thing, and I got depressed. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? I've just achieved success like times 10,000. I got this $8 million house. I had the Maserati, the Mercedes, 2 Mercedes. I had the boats, the jet skis, all the stuff, beautiful family in the house. How could I possibly be depressed? Well, it relates to what we were just talking about a moment ago. Happiness doesn't come from the goal. Happiness comes from progress and growth. And like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. I didn't have a vision for the future. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I didn't know I was going to continue to grow. So that was a big thing that was going on. But the even bigger thing that was going on was I'd been totally focused on me. Rod. Show the world I'm good enough. Show the world I matter. And to get out of this depression, I went out and bought some books, because I'm going to get back. I'm not going to go sit on a couch and talk about my problems, even though I do believe in therapy now, but I back then I didn't. And so I went out and got some books, and one of them was Tony Robbins' book. And I got about halfway through, and I'm like, man, I really like this. So I went and saw him live. And, again, I spent 20 years following him around the planet, because if you have a chance to see him, just do it. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. But one of the things that I found out that he does is he feeds families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. And so I went back home, and I was flying to Denver for Thanksgiving with my brother. And my parents actually were there at the time. And I called my brother. I said, let's feed 5 families for Thanksgiving. And so he went to his church and found 5 families that really needed help. And the third family changed my life. And we bought, big boxes of food, frozen turkey, roasting pan. If they didn't have one, we got toys for the kids. And we go up to this third place, and it was this, not even a 1-bedroom. It was a crappy 1-bedroom, because you had to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen. But there was a woman in there with 5 kids. She comes out and she sees the food and the toys. She starts crying. Her kids come out. The older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm freaking hooked. And I'm blessed to say, in the last 21 years, we fed over 110,000 kids here in Sarasota and Bradenton. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to give to kids, actually for an officer to keep in their vehicle when they encounter a child that's been traumatized, so they can comfort that child. And I don't say this to brag either, but there's a message here, guys. And that is, I know if you're listening to Lee, you might be young with blood dripping from your teeth. You want this success so freaking bad. You want to get out of the rat race. You want to make it happen for yourself. You want that success. But I'm going to tell you, if you're not giving back, that success is empty. See, I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. See, achievement is a science, okay? Success is a science. You want to learn multifamily? Come spend a couple, 3 days with me, and you will have the blueprint to go. Then you just got to go do it, okay? There's no secret sauce. It's just you just have to do it. but fulfillment is an art, because you have to give in a something that you're passionate about. So here's what I would tell you: if this is you and you're not giving back in any way, find something that you're passionate about. And for me, it's kids, but it could be the elderly, it can be animals, it can be the environment. I don't care what it is, and give back right now. Here's why. We've been taught to achieve to be happy. Like, we can't be happy until we've achieved. That's what I thought. Okay. But I'm going to tell you, when you are giving back in any fashion, you're happily achieving. Don't tell me you'll do it when you have money. Do it right now, because I'm going to tell you, you're going to get the success faster. Again, you don't do it for that reason, but that's just the way it works. So figure it out and do something right now, even if it's just your time.
Man, that's great stuff, Rod. And that's why I appreciate you being so vulnerable about your story and what you've learned, because you've been there, you've done that, you've learned so much from it. Now you can pass it along to us. And I think there's so much wisdom there that you can build a successful business, but if it's focused on yourself, then when you reach those goals, you really have nothing else to do. And somebody as driven as you, it's unfulfilling. You want more. And I just think, while you're talking, I'm like, man, if you're a driven person and you want to do all these things, you can never do enough to be able to give away everything that's needed. There's so much need out there. If you're focused on others, you're always going to be driven to give away, because there's always so much need out there.
Let me add something to what you just said. If you are ever depressed or you are unhappy, you are always looking in the mirror. You're always focused on yourself. And if that ever happens, turn your attention outward. Spread love, spread happiness, just give in some fashion. Turn your attention outward, and you won't be unhappy anymore. That's just the way it works. Stuff. Yeah.
Rod, one thing I want to ask you, I just feel like you've kind of already answered it, but I love thinking about on this show specifically. Hey, we want to have a lot of success in multifamily. You've clearly done that. Now you're teaching people to do that. But the other thing that's way more important is to make sure you're having success in life, success in your marriage with your kids, and those things. Because I think we would all say that's why we're doing whatever we're doing. That's why we're going and trying to create cash flow, create passive income, create wealth, build generational wealth. It's because we've got this family.
Okay. I will tell you, my greatest regret in life to this day, was coming home every day, hugely successful financially, and playing with my kids. I would play with them every night, but I wasn't there mentally. I was distracted because I was so focused on proving the world that I mattered. It's my greatest regret to this day. My kids will tell you I was a great dad, but I didn't live up to my own standards. So one of the things I teach my students, and I'm adamant about, in fact, you'll hear about it in my boot camp within the first probably 10 minutes of me talking. It's success is easy. Okay. It's all the other things and keeping it all together and focusing on what's most important that takes additional effort. And so one of the things I teach, like if you DM me for my goal setting, link to the goal setting workshop, at the end of that thing, I teach my weekly planning process. It's about 15 minutes to teach you how to plan on a weekly basis. And one of those things is being grateful for any magic moments that you created that week with your family. And another thing is blocking time for what's most important, including your family. Okay. Yep. But it's an incredible process that's allowed me to manage, a couple of large companies at the same time. And I would encourage you, if you do that, have your kids watch it. Okay. Have your spouse watch it. Make sure you're aligned. Yeah. It'll get you juiced and get you focused and get you clarity on the things that it is that you want. And by the way, let me put a little plug in. If, I cover all the operational expenses for my foundation where I feed families. In fact, and then some. So every dime goes to food or backpacks or teddy bears. So if you have an interest in helping with that, text Tiny Hands to 72345. My foundation's called the Tiny Hands Foundation. Yeah. And listen, $30 feeds a family of 4. So, if you can help out, I'd be grateful. Again, that's Tiny Hands to 72345. If you're interested in one of my boot camps, again, I don't sell anything at them. I've got a virtual one that I do that's about 16 to 18 hours of training, nothing being sold. You can come for about $100. My live events, 3 days of training, again, nothing being sold. If you want to meet with my team and talk about coaching, you can, but I don't push it. So text the word Rod, my name, to 72345. Or you can text multifamily as well to 72345, and we'll get you the information on whatever my next boot camp is.
Yeah, when is your next live one, Rod? When and where?
My next live one is in July in Denver.
Okay.
And July 28th, 29th, and 30th, I believe.
Awesome.
In Denver, it'll be live. Can't wait, because that's my hometown. Kind of my hometown, because I lived there for 30 years. But So again, if you text Rod to 72345, if this goes live in April, that'll be perfect timing.
Perfect.
And just when you get to the checkout page, use the code RODFRIEND, and you'll get a significant
awesome.
break on the tickets. Yeah.
Rod, I appreciate this so much. This has been
pleasure.
so great. I
Thanks,
love
buddy.
your passion behind it. I think that's, again, why you have such a following and such a great community. And the podcast has been so incredibly successful and all that, because there's so much passion. There's a vulnerability there. You just pass on so much wisdom from all your experience and the hard work that you've put in. And man, thank you.
Appreciate that, Lee. And I'm really impressed with you as well,
Yeah.
buddy. This is, I can see why your podcast is such a success, buddy. You ask good questions, and I can feel your energy as well. So good work.
Well, thank you, Rod. Thanks. Hey, I've got here, you mentioned some of the places to text. I mean, you've got rodkhleif.com. I know you're active on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram.
Go to Real Estate with Rod, because that nobody can spell my name. So go to Real Estate with Rod, and it'll take you to my website.
Okay.
Rodkhleif.com. And, there's so many free resources there. There's books, there's articles, there's videos, just a ton of free material there for you. So Real Estate with Rod. And then, like I say, if you're serious about this business, for God's sakes, come spend a couple days with me.
Sure.
I promise you'll be glad you did. The only complaint I ever get at my live events is that the room's too cold or the food sucked or something like that. In my virtual events, the only complaint I ever get is the breaks are too short, because I'm packing 3 days into 2 days, 15-minute breaks. And trust me, the breaks are harder on me than you, because I got to eat and pee and everything else.
Super fast. Exactly. Right. That's awesome. Good stuff, Rod. Hey, before I let you go, I always like to ask people, how might my listeners and I be praying for you in the coming weeks?
Oh man, you hit me.
That's
with
the toughest one, isn't it?
Yeah. My daughter's in the hospital right now at Moffitt Cancer Center. And she got diagnosed with leukemia 4 months ago, and she's out, and she just went back in Saturday, and she's miserable. She's had incredible. So if you could pray for my daughter,
absolutely.
Her name is Brittany Khleif. And I'd be very, very grateful. She's a beautiful human being. She's 30 years old, and she's going through the toughest time of her life. She's lost all her hair, of course, and just very unhappy. So I'd be super grateful for that. Thanks, Lee.
Absolutely, Rod. Yeah. No, we all know people that have been through that, and it's awful. Cancer is awful. So absolutely be happy to pray for that for you, Rob.
Thank you.
Hope she gets better soon. Well, Rod, thank you so much. This has been an absolute blessing for me. I know for my listeners, and appreciate you taking the time and coming on and sharing so much wisdom with us.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode. I hope you'll take action on what you've learned today. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving Lee a 5-star rating and review. And check him out on threefoldrei.com. Until next time, 1 Timothy 6:17.